Have you ever noticed how a flower never forces itself to bloom? How it simply allows the morning sun to kiss its petals awake, without struggle, without hurry, without fear of not being ready. Tonight, as you settle into this sacred space, imagine that your body is like that flower, and this moment, this very breath you're taking now, is your gentle morning sun. What if the very thing you've been fighting against is actually trying to embrace you? Close your eyes softly, as if you're drawing curtains made of silk. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the world, your shoulders against the pillow, your back against the mattress, your feet finally free from carrying you through another day. Tonight, you've arrived at a place that exists beyond effort, beyond trying, beyond the exhausting dance of chasing sleep, like a butterfly that flies away the moment you reach for it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future chapters, and share in the comments how you're feeling right now. Your journey matters, your rest matters, you matter. Breathe with me now. In through your nose, as if you're breathing in moonlight. Out through your mouth, as if you're releasing every expectation, every should, every must that has been weighing on your heart. There is a garden that exists in the space between wakefulness and sleep. In this garden, the flowers bloom in darkness. The trees grow roots not down into earth, but up toward stars. And in the center of this garden stands an ancient fountain that doesn't flow with water, but with something far more precious, pure permission. Permission to be exactly as you are right now. Permission to feel tired without guilt. Permission to be awake without anxiety. Permission to rest without having to earn it. In this garden, there is no clock. Time moves like honey, slow and golden. The air itself seems to breathe with you, expanding when you inhale, softening when you exhale. Here, your restless mind is not a problem to be solved, but a guest to be welcomed with tender understanding. Imagine yourself walking barefoot on a path made of compressed starlight. Each step is softer than the last. The ground beneath your feet seems to recognize you, to remember you. As if you've walked this path before, in dreams you've forgotten, but your body still remembers. As you walk deeper into this garden of awakened sleep, you begin to notice something extraordinary. The very thoughts that usually keep you awake, the worries about tomorrow, the replaying of today, the endless list of things undone, they're all here too. But here, they appear as gentle wisps of smoke, visible but not solid, present but not persistent. You realize you don't need to make them disappear. You don't need to fight them or fix them or figure them out. You simply need to let them be, the way you'd let clouds drift across the sky without feeling responsible for their movement. A wise woman once told me that the secret to rest isn't in the absence of thoughts, but in changing our relationship with them. Instead of being the victim of your mind's activity, you become its compassionate witness. Instead of being pulled into every story your thoughts want to tell, you become the loving observer who nods gently and says, "I see you, and that's enough." Think of your grandmother's hands, how they moved with such gentle confidence when she kneaded bread or folded laundry. There was no hurry in those hands, no forcing, no struggle. They knew that some things unfold in their own time, with their own rhythm. Your rest, dear one, has that same natural rhythm. It knows when to come. It knows how to come. It simply needs you to stop directing the orchestra and allow it to play its ancient song. Perhaps you've been treating sleep like a business transaction. If I do this, then I'll get that. If I follow these steps, then rest will be my reward. But what if rest isn't something you earn or achieve or master? What if it's something you remember, like remembering how to breathe or how to smile or how to feel the sun on your face? Your body has been resting since before you were born. In your mother's womb, you knew nothing but rest, floating in warm darkness, cradled by the rhythm of her heartbeat. That knowledge is still in you. It never left. It's just been covered over by years of trying, efforting, pushing, and pulling. Tonight, you're not learning how to sleep. You're remembering how to trust. Let your breath become your teacher now. Notice how it flows in and out without any help from you. You don't have to remember to breathe. You don't have to force your lungs to expand or contract. Your body knows. It has always known. And just as your body knows how to breathe, it knows how to rest. Feel the rhythm of your heartbeat, that steady drum that has been playing the song of your life since before your first cry. It doesn't beat because you will it to. It doesn't rest between beats because you command it to. It simply follows its own perfect rhythm, trusting the ancient wisdom written in your cells. This is the first secret of the garden of awakened sleep. Trust is the soil in which rest grows. As you sink deeper into your pillow, imagine that you're sinking deeper into this trust, not falling, not collapsing, but sinking the way a stone sinks into still water, gently, naturally, inevitably. The water doesn't resist the stone. The stone doesn't force its way through the water. They meet each other with perfect acceptance. And together they create something beautiful, circles of light expanding outward, touching everything, disturbing nothing. Your breath is the stone. This moment is the water. Let them meet each other without interference from your mind, without help from your will, without any effort at all. In this garden, even your restlessness is welcome. Even your thoughts are invited guests. Even your worries are allowed to exist without being banished or battled. Because here, in this sacred space between trying and allowing, you learn that peace isn't the absence of disturbance, it's the presence of acceptance. Feel your body beginning to soften, not because you're making it happen, but because you're finally allowing what wants to happen naturally. Your shoulders dropping slightly, your jaw unclenching without your permission, your belly rising and falling with the gentle rhythm of someone who has nowhere to go and nothing to prove. The garden of awakened sleep is not a destination you arrive at, but a truth you remember. It's not a technique you master, but a home you return to, and you don't find it by searching harder or trying more. You find it by stopping the search, ending the trying, and simply arriving here now, in this breath, in this body, in this moment that is asking nothing of you except your presence. Welcome home, beautiful soul. Welcome to the garden where sleep isn't conquered but invited, where rest isn't earned but recognized, where peace isn't achieved but remembered. You don't need to do anything now except breathe and trust that your body knows exactly what it needs and exactly when it needs it. The fountain of permission is flowing. The flowers of trust are blooming. The path of least resistance is lighting up beneath your feet. And you, you are already exactly where you need to be. Your mind, dear one, is like a house with many rooms. Some rooms are filled with sunlight and the scent of lavender. Others hold shadows and whispers from yesterday. Tonight, instead of trying to lock the shadowy rooms or illuminate them with force, you're simply going to walk through your inner house with a candle of gentle awareness, acknowledging each room with the tenderness of a grandmother saying goodnight to sleeping children. Can you feel it? That restless energy that dances behind your closed eyelids. That busyness that seems to awaken just when your body is ready to rest. This is not your enemy. This is not a malfunction. This is simply your mind doing what minds do. Thinking, worrying, planning, remembering. And tonight, you're going to meet this restless mind not as an adversary to defeat, but as a dear friend who has forgotten how to rest. Breathe with me now. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale, as if you're breathing out through the roots of an ancient tree, sending your worries deep into the earth, where they can become compost for tomorrow's wisdom. There is a story told in the monasteries of Tibet about a young monk who suffered from what we now call insomnia. Night after night he would lie on his simple mat, listening to the peaceful breathing of his brothers, feeling like the only person in the world who didn't know the secret of sleep. His mind would race like a wild horse across endless fields of thought. The harder he tried to catch the horse, the faster it ran. Sound familiar? One night, exhausted from months of this internal battle, he approached his teacher. "Master," he whispered, "how do I silence my mind? How do I make the thoughts stop so I can finally rest?" The old teacher smiled, his eyes twinkling like stars reflected in still water. "My child," he said softly, "you are asking the wrong question. Don't ask how to make the thoughts stop. Ask how to change your relationship with them. The thoughts are not the problem. Your fight with them is." Feel this truth settling into your body like warm honey. Your thoughts are not the problem. Your fight with them is what if, instead of being the frustrated homeowner trying to evict noisy tenants from your mind, you became the wise landlord who acknowledges them with compassion, but doesn't get drawn into their drama. What if you could say to your racing thoughts, "I see you there, dear ones. You can stay, but I'm not joining your conversation tonight. Let's practice this now." Notice what thoughts are visiting your mind at this moment. Are they planning tomorrow, reviewing today, worrying about something you cannot control? Instead of pushing them away or getting frustrated, simply observe them the way you'd observe clouds forming and dissolving in a vast sky. Your thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. Clouds come and go, but the sky remains unchanged, spacious, and eternally at peace. Rest your hand on your heart now. Feel its steady rhythm, that faithful drum that has been playing the soundtrack of your life for decades. Your heart doesn't think its way into beating. It doesn't worry about the next beat or regret the last one. It simply beats, present and true, moment by moment by moment. This is your model for rest. Not the stopping of all activity, but the natural rhythm of being present with what is, without resistance, without judgment, without the exhausting effort of trying to control what cannot be controlled. Think of a mother rocking her child to sleep. She doesn't force sleep to come. She doesn't become anxious if the child doesn't fall asleep immediately. She simply holds the space of peace, rocks with gentle rhythm, and trusts that sleep will arrive in its own perfect timing. Tonight, you are both the mother and the child. You are holding yourself with that same tender patience, that same unconditional love. Your restless mind is like that child who's had a big day and needs a few extra minutes to settle. It's been working so hard for you, thinking, solving, protecting, planning. Of course it needs time to wind down. Of course it doesn't want to stop immediately. Thank it for all it has done today. Thank it for trying so hard to keep you safe and prepared and ahead of potential problems. And then, with the gentle authority of love, you can say, "Thank you, dear mind. You've done enough for today. It's time to rest now." But here's the beautiful paradox. The more you welcome your restless mind, the more it begins to settle. The more you fight it, the more activated it becomes. Resistance creates persistence. Acceptance creates space for change. Imagine your thoughts as leaves on the surface of a lake. When the wind is blowing, when you're fighting and frustrated, the leaves dance wildly across the water. But when you become still, when you stop creating internal wind with your resistance, the leaves naturally settle. The lake becomes a mirror, reflecting the stars. Your mind can become that still lake, not empty but peaceful, not dead but resting, not silent but harmonious. Let your breath guide you deeper into this understanding. With each exhale, you're not pushing thoughts away. You're simply creating more space around them, more room for them to exist without consuming you, more distance between the observer and the observed. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that notices them. You are not your worries. You are the awareness that can choose whether to engage with them or not. You are not your restless mind. You are the peace that has always been there, underneath the activity, waiting patiently to be remembered. Feel this distinction in your body now. The thoughts may still be coming and going, but you, the real you, the essential you, are becoming more and more settled. Like sediment in a jar of muddy water that gradually clears when you stop shaking it. Your body knows how to rest. It's been resting since before you were born. In between each heartbeat, there is rest. In between each breath, there is rest. In between each thought, there is rest. You don't need to create rest. You need to recognize it. It's already here, woven into the very fabric of your being. Tonight, instead of trying to achieve some perfect state of mental silence, you're going to practice something much more sustainable and gentle, making friends with your own mind, welcoming it exactly as it is, treating it with the kindness you'd show a beloved friend who's having trouble sleeping. And in that space of self-compassion, something magical begins to happen. The mind that felt so agitated and impossible to calm begins to soften, like a fist gradually opening into a hand. Not because you forced it to, but because you created the conditions for its natural relaxation. The fight is over, dear one. The war between you and your thoughts can end tonight. In its place, there is patience. There is gentleness. There is the profound peace that comes from accepting yourself exactly as you are, restless mind and all. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You simply need to be met with the love you would offer to anyone else struggling to find rest in a world that never seems to slow down. Breathe into this love now. Let it fill the spaces between your thoughts. Let it soften the edges of your worry. Let it remind you that you are held, you are safe, and you are exactly where you need to be. In the mountains of ancient Tibet, where the air is so thin it feels like breathing starlight. There lived a monk whose name carried the weight of irony. Thitchmin, Han's serene mind, but serenity was the one thing that eluded him like morning mist through fingers. Can you see him there, sitting cross-legged in his simple cell, while moonlight spills through a small window like liquid silver? His body aches with exhaustion, but his mind churns like a water wheel in an endless river of thoughts. Around him, his brothers sleep with the easy grace of children, their breath rising and falling in perfect harmony with the mountain wind. But Thitchmin Han knows only the restless dance of a mind that has forgotten how to be still. Night after night, he watches the same movie play behind his closed eyelids, thoughts circling like birds that cannot find a place to land, worries spinning like prayer wheels that offer no peace, only more motion. His body begs for rest, but his consciousness burns bright as a torch that refuses to dim. Does this sound familiar, dear one? Have you too known nights where your body is ready, but your mind is wide awake, as if someone forgot to give it permission to rest? Feel your own body now, settling deeper into this moment. Let Thitchmin Han's story become a mirror in which you recognize your own journey toward peace. One particular night, when the moon hung full and bright like a lantern in the temple courtyard, something inside Thitchmin Han finally surrendered. Not to sleep, but to the moment exactly as it was. Exhausted from the endless battle with his own consciousness, he rose from his mat and walked barefoot to the garden. The stones were cold beneath his feet. The air held that crystalline clarity that only comes in the deep of night. Around him, the lotus flowers slept open to the stars, their petals soft as prayer scarves in the gentle breeze. Everything in the garden knew how to rest except him. And then, standing there in the moonlight, something shifted. Instead of trying to understand why sleep wouldn't come, instead of fighting the wakefulness or judging his restless mind, he simply ... stopped trying. This is where the magic begins, beautiful soul. In the stopping, in the laying down of arms in a war that was never meant to be fought. Thitchmin Han sat on a stone bench worn smooth by centuries of other seekers. He didn't sit to meditate. He didn't sit to achieve anything. He simply sat because his body was tired and the bench was there. Above him, the moon watched without expectation, without demand, without any agenda except to shine. And in that spaceless space between effort and surrender, he remembered something his teacher had told him years before. Words that had seemed like riddles then, but now fell into his heart like seeds into fertile soil. Sleep cannot be conquered. My child, it can only be allowed. Let these words settle into your own heart now. Sleep cannot be conquered. It can only be allowed. Feel what happens in your body when you hear this. Notice if there's a softening, a releasing, a gentle exhale of relief. You have been carrying the burden of trying to make sleep happen, haven't you? Tonight, you can set that burden down. Sitting in the garden, Thitchmin Han began to observe his thoughts the way he'd watch clouds forming and dissolving in the vast sky above. The thoughts were still there, planning, worrying, remembering, anticipating. But for the first time, he wasn't trying to make them stop or go away or be different than they were. A thought about tomorrow's duties arose. Instead of engaging with it or pushing it away, he simply acknowledged it. I see you, thought about tomorrow. A worry about his spiritual progress surfaced. I see you, worry about not being good enough. A memory from childhood drifted through. I see you, sweet memory of home. Each thought was greeted like a guest passing through, acknowledged but not detained, seen but not engaged, welcomed but not fed with attention and energy. And something miraculous began to happen. Not immediately, not dramatically, but with the gentle inevitability of dawn breaking over mountains. The thoughts began to space themselves out, like ripples on a pond settling into stillness. Not because he was fighting them, but because he had stopped giving them so much importance. His body, sensing that the war was over, began to naturally release its vigilant tension. His shoulders dropped without his permission, his jaw unclenched without his effort. His breath deepened into the slow rhythm of someone who has nowhere to go and nothing to prove. He didn't fall asleep in the garden. That's not the point of this story. The point is that for the first time in months, he truly rested. Even in wakefulness, there was rest. Even without sleep, there was peace. His body and mind finally remembered that rest is not dependent on unconsciousness, it's dependent on acceptance. Breathe with this understanding now, dear one. Rest is not dependent on unconsciousness, it's dependent on acceptance. Feel your own body beginning to remember this ancient truth. You don't need to be asleep to rest. You don't need to have a quiet mind to be at peace. You simply need to stop fighting what is and start welcoming what wants to naturally unfold. When the first hint of dawn touched the mountain peaks, Thitchmin rose from the bench, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, refreshed. Not because he had slept, but because he had finally stopped the exhausting work of trying to control what could not be controlled. He walked back to his cell with light steps, his heart full of a quiet joy that had nothing to do with achieving anything and everything to do with surrendering everything. And there, on his simple mat, as naturally as breathing, sleep finally came. Not as a reward for his effort, but as a gift for his surrender. From that night forward, Thitchmin never fought sleep again. He never tried to make it happen or worried when it didn't come immediately. He had learned the most profound secret of all spiritual practice. When you stop grasping, you naturally receive. When you stop forcing, you allow flow. When you stop conquering, you begin to truly rest. His fellow monks began to notice the change in him, not just in how easily he slept, but in how present he was during waking hours. There was a quality of deep rest that seemed to emanate from him like fragrance from a flower. He had found the source of peace that doesn't depend on external conditions. Years later, Thitchmin would become a teacher himself, though he rarely spoke of techniques or methods. Instead, he would simply sit with those who came seeking help with their sleeplessness. And in his presence, they would feel something they had almost forgotten, permission to be exactly as they were. Restless mind and tired body and all. His teaching was not in his words, but in his being. He had become a living example of what it means to rest from the inside out. To find peace not by changing circumstances, but by changing relationship to circumstances. Tonight, you can walk in Thitchmin footsteps. You can sit in your own moonlit garden, the garden of this present moment, and practice the art of allowing rather than achieving. You can meet your restless mind with the same gentle acknowledgement he learned that transformative night. You are not broken, dear one. You are not failing at sleep. You are simply learning to rest in a deeper way than you ever thought possible. Like Thitchmin, you are discovering that the peace you seek was never missing. It was simply waiting for you to stop looking so hard and start receiving so openly. The moon is always there, even when clouds cover it. Your capacity for rest is always here, even when thoughts seem to cover it. Tonight, let the clouds pass. Let the moon of your natural peace shine through. In the sacred space where Thitchmin discovered his path to peace, 3 ancient principles emerged like lotus flowers blooming in moonlight. These are not techniques to master, dear soul, but truths to remember. They are written in the language of your bones, whispered in the rhythm of your heartbeat, encoded in the very breath that sustains you. Tonight, you will not learn these principles. You will recognize them the way you recognize the scent of rain before it falls, or the feeling of home when you cross its threshold. Breathe now and let your body sink deeper into this moment, as if you are settling into warm water that holds you without effort, supports you without question, loves you without condition. The first sacred principle: radical acceptance. Imagine a tree in winter standing bare against the grey sky. Does it struggle against the cold? Does it fight the wind? Does it apologize for not having leaves? No, beautiful one. It stands in perfect acceptance of what is, knowing that this season too shall pass, trusting that spring lives sleeping in its roots. This is radical acceptance, not resignation, not giving up, but the profound courage to meet this moment exactly as it arrives, without demanding it be different, without wishing it were otherwise, without exhausting yourself in the futile effort to change what simply is. Your sleepless nights, your racing thoughts, your tired body that somehow cannot rest, what if these are not problems to solve, but experiences to hold with tender understanding? What if your restless mind is not your enemy, but a frightened child who needs compassion more than correction? Feel into this possibility now. Let your breath become an act of acceptance. With each inhale, breathe in what is. With each exhale, release the need for it to be different. You are not broken, dear heart. You are simply human, learning to rest in a world that has forgotten how to be still. Place your hand on your chest and feel the steady rhythm beneath your palm. Your heart accepts each moment completely. It doesn't skip beats when you're worried, doesn't stop when you're sad, doesn't race ahead to tomorrow or lag behind in yesterday. It beats for this breath, this heartbeat, this precious present moment. This is your teacher in radical acceptance. Let your heart show your mind how to be present without resistance, how to flow with what is rather than swimming against the current of reality. The second sacred principle: observation without judgment. In the monasteries of old, there lived monks who were called the watchers at the gate. Their practice was simple yet profound: to observe the coming and going of thoughts, like guards watching travelers at a city gate. They would see each thought approach, acknowledge its presence, and let it pass without interrogation, without engagement, without making stories about where it came from or where it was going. You can become such a watcher tonight, dear one. Imagine you are sitting by a gentle stream, watching leaves float past on the water's surface. Some leaves are bright and beautiful, happy memories, peaceful feelings, moments of joy. Others are darker, worries, regrets, fears about tomorrow. But to the stream, all leaves are simply leaves. To the water, all travelers are welcomed equally. Your consciousness can become like that stream, spacious enough to hold all thoughts, wise enough not to cling to any of them, peaceful enough to let them flow through without being disturbed by their content. Notice what thoughts are visiting your mind right now. Are they planning tomorrow's tasks? Reviewing today's conversations? Spinning stories about things that may never happen? Instead of judging these thoughts as good or bad, right or wrong, helpful or harmful, simply observe them with the gentle curiosity of a grandmother watching children play. Oh, there's a worry about work. Ah, here comes a memory from last week. I see a thought about needing to sleep. Meet each one with the same benevolent awareness, the same loving detachment. This is not indifference, beautiful soul. This is the profound compassion that comes from recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the sky in which they appear and disappear, the silence between the notes, the peace that remains constant even as mental weather comes and goes. Let your breathing be your anchor in this practice. Each breath is a return to the observer, a coming home to the watcher, a gentle reminder that you are the awareness that notices, not the content that is noticed. The third sacred principle, trust in the body's wisdom. Your body carries the memories of 1,000 generations of mothers who knew how to rest. In your cells' lives, the wisdom of women who slept under stars, who trusted the darkness, who surrendered to the natural rhythms of earth and moon and season. This wisdom has not been lost, dear heart. It has only been covered over by the noise of modern life, by the beliefs that tell you rest must be earned, that peace must be achieved, that sleep must be conquered like a prize in battle. But your body knows better. It knows that rest is your birthright, as natural as breathing, as automatic as your heartbeat, as inevitable as the tide returning to shore. Feel this ancient knowing stirring in your bones now. Your body has been resting since before you took your first breath, resting in your mother's womb, cradled by the sound of her heartbeat, fed by her blood, held by her love. That cellular memory of perfect trust, perfect safety, perfect rest still lives within you. Your nervous system knows how to downshift from the busy alertness of day to the deep receptivity of night. Your muscles know how to release their tension when they feel truly safe. Your breath knows how to slow and deepen when it's time to restore and heal. You don't need to teach your body these things any more than you need to teach your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe. You simply need to create the conditions for your body's innate wisdom to express itself. And what are those conditions? Safety, permission, trust, the felt sense that you are held, that you are protected, that you can let go without falling, that you can surrender without losing yourself. Rest your hands on your belly now, that soft place where life once grew within you, or where your own life was once cradled. This is your center of wisdom, your place of deep knowing, your connection to the feminine mysteries of creation and rest and renewal. Breathe into your hands as if you're breathing directly into this wise place. Let your belly rise and fall with each breath, soft and natural, trusting and unforced. This is how you breathed as a baby, before you learned to hold your breath in anxiety. before you forgot that breathing is meant to be a massage for your internal organs, a gentle wave that carries you deeper into trust. These three principles, radical acceptance, observation without judgment, and trust in the body's wisdom, are not separate practices, but three facets of one jewel. Three doorways into the same temple, three paths up the same mountain of peace. They work together like the threads in a tapestry, weaving a net of support that can hold you through any night of restlessness, any season of challenge, any moment when sleep seems as distant as stars. Tonight, you don't need to perfect these principles or master them or even fully understand them. You simply need to let them work through you. The way moonlight works through darkness, not by fighting the shadows, but by gently, persistently, lovingly illuminating what is ready to be seen. Let these principles become your companions on this journey toward rest. Let them be the wise friends who remind you that you are not alone, you are not broken, and you are exactly where you need to be. The path to true rest is not through force, but through flowing, not through mastery, but through surrender, not through perfection, but through the beautiful, imperfect, utterly human practice of learning to be gentle with yourself. In the bustling heart of a great city, where glass towers pierce the sky like needles of ambition and the streets pulse with the heartbeat of endless urgency, there lived a woman named Sarah, executive by day, warrior by night, but not the kind of warrior you might imagine. Sarah fought a different kind of battle. Every evening, as the city lights began to twinkle like earthbound stars, she would enter the arena of her bedroom and face her most relentless opponent, the expectation that she should be able to rest. Can you see her there, dear soul, sitting on the edge of her bed at midnight, still wearing the invisible armor of her professional success, but feeling more vulnerable than she had ever felt in any boardroom? Her body aches with the weight of decisions made, deadlines met, people managed. But her mind hums with electricity that refuses to dim. Feel your own body now, settling deeper into this moment. Let Sarah's story become a gentle mirror, reflecting perhaps something you recognize in your own nights of restless seeking. For months, Sarah tried everything the modern world promised would bring her peace. Sleep medications that left her groggy, apps that guided her through breathing exercises while her mind wandered to tomorrow's presentations. Supplements and teas and gadgets that measured her sleep like a performance review she was failing. The harder she tried, the more elusive rest became. Sleep turned into another project to manage, another problem to solve, another mountain to climb with the same determined energy she brought to everything else in her life. But Sarah was tired. Bone deep, soul deep, tired in a way that had nothing to do with how many hours she had worked, and everything to do with how many years she had been trying to be perfect at everything, including sleep. Does this weariness feel familiar to you, beautiful one? Have you too carried the burden of trying to excel at rest, of needing to be good at something as natural as breathing? One night, after weeks of 3-hour sleeps and coffee-fueled days, Sarah found herself standing in her kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at another cup of chamomile tea growing cold in her hands. And something inside her simply ... broke open. Not broke down, broke open, like an eggshell cracking to let life emerge. In that moment of surrender, she whispered words she had never allowed herself to say. "I'm exhausted. I'm so tired of trying to be tired the right way." And then something miraculous happened. Instead of judging herself for this confession, instead of adding it to her list of failures, she felt compassion. The same compassion she would feel for her dearest friend struggling with the same challenge. For the first time in months, Sarah didn't go to bed with a plan. She didn't set intentions or practice techniques or try to clear her mind. She simply lay down with her tiredness, not as something to fix, but as something to finally, honestly acknowledge. "I see you, exhaustion," she whispered to her weary body. "I see how hard you've been working. I see how much you've been carrying." Instead of fighting her racing thoughts about tomorrow's merger meeting, she spoke to them like beloved children who were afraid of being forgotten. "I see you, worries about tomorrow. You're trying to help me be prepared. Thank you for caring so much. Feel this shift in your own heart now, dear one." What would it be like to speak to your own restlessness with such tenderness? What would change if you treated your sleepless nights not as failures, but as opportunities to practice radical self-compassion? Sarah's body began to respond to this unfamiliar kindness like a flower that had been waiting lifetimes for rain. Her shoulders, which had been holding the weight of responsibility like Atlas holding the world, began to soften. Her jaw, clenched tight with the effort of trying, gradually released. She didn't fall asleep immediately, but for the first time in months, she rested. Even in wakefulness, there was rest. Even with thoughts still moving through her mind, there was peace. She had stopped making her tiredness wrong and started making it welcome. That night marked the beginning of Sarah's true healing. Not from insomnia, but from the violence she had been doing to herself in trying to cure it. She learned that rest is not something you earn through effort, but something you allow through acceptance. Breathe with this understanding now. Rest is not earned through effort. It is allowed through acceptance. Over the weeks that followed, Sarah developed what she came to call her compassion practice. Instead of going to bed with strategies, she went to bed with kindness. Instead of monitoring her sleep, she honored her need for rest, whether it came as sleep or simply as lying peacefully in the dark. She began to speak to her body the way she would speak to a beloved friend who had been overworked and underappreciated. "Sweet body, you have carried me through so much today. You have sat in meetings and made decisions and held me upright through every challenge. You don't need to perform now. You just need to be held." And her body, sensing this shift from demand to devotion, began to remember its ancient wisdom. Not all at once, not dramatically, but with the gentle inevitability of spring returning after winter. Sarah discovered that her executive skills, which had seemed like obstacles to rest, could actually serve her healing when redirected. Instead of managing her sleep, she managed her relationship with sleeplessness. Instead of optimizing her rest, she optimized her acceptance. Instead of controlling outcomes, she controlled her response to whatever arose. The woman who had once conquered markets learned to surrender to mercy, her own mercy, offered to herself with the generosity she had always given to others, but never to the woman in the mirror. Sleep began to visit her more regularly, but more importantly, peace began to live with her constantly. She carried a quality of deep rest into her waking hours that colleagues noticed, a centeredness that came not from having perfect sleep, but from having perfect acceptance of imperfect sleep. Sarah's story became a quiet revolution in her world. Other women, executives, began to ask her secret, expecting to hear about a new technique or therapy. Instead, they heard about radical self-compassion, about treating their tired bodies like beloved friends rather than failing machines. She would tell them, "I stopped trying to be good at sleep and started being good to myself while awake." The sleep followed naturally, but the peace came first. Tonight, dear soul, you can walk Sarah's path of transformation. You can lay down the exhausting burden of trying to rest perfectly and pick up the gentle practice of resting compassionately. Your tiredness is not your failure. It is your humanity showing, your vulnerability asking to be held, your beautiful, imperfect, completely normal human need for rest, crying out for acceptance rather than solutions. What if this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this gentle settling into what is exactly the rest you've been seeking? Not the rest that comes after you fix everything, but the rest that comes when you stop trying to fix everything and start accepting everything with the tenderness of a mother's love. You are not broken, beautiful one. You are not failing at rest. You are learning to rest in a revolutionary way, with compassion instead of competition, with acceptance instead of achievement, with love instead of judgment. Feel this truth settling into your bones like warm honey. Let Sarah's courage to be kind to herself inspire your own journey toward radical self-acceptance. Tonight, you too can rest, not because you've earned it, but because you deserve it, simply for being the precious, tired, perfectly imperfect human that you are. In the quiet chambers of your nervous system, there lives an ancient guardian. This guardian has been with you since before your first breath, watching over your safety with the devotion of a mother watching her sleeping child. Tonight, we honor this guardian and learn the sacred science of feeling truly, deeply, completely safe. Breathe now and feel yourself settling deeper. With each exhale, you are not just releasing air, you are releasing the accumulated tension of a world that has taught you to be always alert, always ready, always on guard. Your nervous system, dear soul, is like a wise animal that has roamed the earth for millions of years. It knows things your mind has forgotten. It remembers safety in ways your thoughts cannot imagine. And when this ancient part of you feels truly secure, not pretend secure, not convinced secure, but cellular deep secure, something magical awakens. The science is both simple and profound. Your body has two primary modes, protection and restoration. When your nervous system perceives danger, real or imagined, present or remembered, it activates your protection mode. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tense, your mind becomes hypervigilant. Sleep becomes impossible because, from your body's perspective, this is not the time to rest. This is the time to survive. But when your nervous system feels safe, truly, deeply safe, it naturally shifts into restoration mode. Your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, your muscles release their vigilant grip. Your mind quiets because your body knows it can afford to rest. Feel this shift beginning now, like morning light gradually illuminating a garden. Your guardian nervous system is listening to your breath, to your intention, to the quality of presence you bring to this moment. And it is beginning to whisper, perhaps it is safe to rest. There is an old story from the villages of Greece about a woman who could not sleep for months after her husband went to war. Night after night, she lay awake listening for his footsteps, for news of his return, for any sound that might tell her he was safe. Her body refused to rest because rest felt like abandonment of her vigil. One night, her grandmother came to her with a small oil lamp. "Light this," she said, "and place it in the window. This light will keep watch for you. Your body can rest knowing that your love still burns bright." The woman lit the lamp, placed it in the window, and for the first time in months, she slept. Not because her husband was safe, but because she had found a way to honor her love while also honoring her need for rest. Your nervous system needs its own version of that lamp in the window, a sense that you are held, that you are protected, that someone or something is keeping watch while you surrender to the vulnerability of sleep. This feeling of safety is not about having a perfect life or living without challenges. It is about cultivating an inner sanctuary that remains peaceful regardless of outer circumstances. It is about creating what the neuroscientists call felt safety, the embodied experience of being held by something larger than your individual efforts to control and protect. Place your hands on your heart now, one over the other, feeling the steady rhythm beneath your palms. This is your first source of safety, the reliable presence of your own life force, the faithful companion that beats without your effort, loves without your permission, sustains without your worry. Breathe into your hands as if you are breathing directly into your heart. With each breath, you are sending a message to your nervous system. I am here, I am present, I am choosing to trust this moment. Your heart has been beating since before you learned to be afraid, since before you discovered that the world could be dangerous, since before you developed the hypervigilance that now keeps you awake. It knows a deeper rhythm than anxiety, a steadier truth than worry, a more ancient wisdom than fear. The sacred science of safety teaches us that healing happens not when we eliminate all threats, but when we cultivate a felt sense of being resourced, supported, held. This can come from many sources: your connection to the divine, your trust in your own resilience, your awareness of love that surrounds you, your faith in life's fundamental benevolence. For some, safety lives in prayer, the felt sense of being held by a loving presence, larger than any individual fear. For others, it rests in nature, the ancient knowing that you are part of an ecosystem that has sustained life for millions of years. Still others find it in their own bodies, the miracle of breath, heartbeat, healing that happens without their conscious direction. Tonight, let your safety come from the simplest source of all, the recognition that in this moment, right now, you are breathing, you are alive, you are exactly where you need to be. Feel your body against the surface that holds you. This is not just a bed or a couch or a chair. This is the earth itself holding you, gravity itself embracing you, the same force that holds planets in their orbits and keeps stars from falling into darkness. You are held by something so vast and reliable that it needs no effort from you to maintain it. You are supported by something so fundamental that it operates beneath your awareness, beyond your control, independent of your worry or fear or vigilance. This is the sacred science of safety, not the elimination of all uncertainty, but the deep remembering that you are held within uncertainty, supported through uncertainty, loved despite uncertainty. Research shows us that when we feel safe at this cellular level, our bodies naturally produce the neurochemicals of rest and repair. Melatonin flows more freely. Cortisol levels drop. The parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, comes online like a gentle engine designed for healing and renewal. You don't need to understand the science to benefit from it. You simply need to sink into the experience of being held, the way a child sinks into the arms of a loving parent, the way a seed sinks into rich soil, trusting that everything needed for growth is already present. Let your breathing be your bridge between effort and ease, between protection and restoration, between the vigilant day mind and the trusting night body. Each exhale is a small surrender, a gentle letting go, a whispered prayer. I am safe enough to rest. The guardian of your nervous system is listening, dear one. It is feeling the quality of your presence, the sincerity of your intention to rest, the love you are finally offering to your tired, faithful, beautifully human body. And slowly, naturally, inevitably, it begins to shift from protection to restoration, from vigilance to trust, from survival to the sacred act of healing sleep, in the sterile halls of a great hospital, where fluorescent lights never sleep, and the rhythm of life and death pulses through corridors like a sacred heartbeat. There walked a man named Dr. Marquez. His hands had delivered hundreds of babies into their first breath. His eyes had witnessed the mystery of last breaths. He knew more about sleep than most, the stages, the cycles, the neurochemistry of dreams. But knowing about sleep and trusting sleep, these were different languages entirely. Feel your own body now, dear soul, settling deeper into this sacred darkness. Let Dr. Marquez's story flow through you like a gentle river, carrying you toward your own shores of understanding. For years, Marquez had been a student of the science of rest. He could diagram the brain's electrical patterns during REM cycles. He understood melatonin and cortisol and the delicate dance of neurotransmitters that orchestrate the symphony of sleep. His medical training had given him maps to the kingdom of rest, but somehow he had lost the key to his own gate. Night after night, he would lie in his bed analyzing his insomnia with the same methodical precision he brought to diagnosing patients. My cortisol levels are elevated due to the stress of the cardiac surgery today. My mind is processing the complexity of Mrs. Rivera's condition. The ambient light from the street is disrupting my circadian rhythm. He had explanations for everything. But explanations, he discovered, do not bring sleep any more than knowing the chemical formula for water can quench thirst. Can you feel this, beautiful one? Have you too lived in the space between understanding and experiencing, between knowing what should help and feeling what actually heals? One evening, after a particularly difficult day in the cardiac unit, Marquez found himself sitting in the hospital chapel. He rarely prayed. Science had been his religion for decades. But exhaustion has a way of making mystics of even the most rational minds. In the dim light of candles flickering like small prayers, he found himself whispering words he hadn't spoken since childhood. Help me, not help me understand, not help me fix this, simply ... help me. And in that moment of surrender, something shifted. The brilliant medical mind that had been trying to solve his sleeplessness like a complex diagnosis finally grew quiet. For the first time in months, he stopped thinking about sleep and started feeling into his own tender humanity. Breathe with this understanding now, dear heart. Sometimes the medicine we need is not more knowledge, but more kindness toward ourselves, toward our beautiful, imperfect, utterly human need for rest that cannot be intellectualized into existence. That night, Marquez went home and did something revolutionary for a man of science. He ignored everything he knew about sleep hygiene and simply lay down with curiosity instead of strategy. Instead of monitoring his breath, he let his breath breathe him. Instead of guiding his body into relaxation, he asked his body what it needed and then ... listened. His body's answer surprised him with its simplicity. Just be with me. Don't try to fix me or improve me or optimize me. Just ... be here. For a man who had spent his career intervening, this invitation to simply witness felt both foreign and deeply familiar, like remembering a song he had hummed as a child but forgotten as an adult. He placed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart, the same heart that had felt the first flutter of life in his mother's womb, that had raced with excitement on his wedding day, that had ached with loss when his father passed. This heart knew how to beat without his instruction, how to love without his permission, how to rest without his management. You have been taking care of everyone else's bodies, he whispered to himself in the darkness. Who has been taking care of yours? Feel this question settling into your own heart now, precious soul. Who has been taking care of your body? When was the last time you touched yourself with the same gentle attention you would offer to someone you love who was struggling? Marquez began to breathe, not as a technique, but as a conversation with his own aliveness. Each inhale became a question. What do you need, faithful body? Each exhale became an offering. Here, take this gift of presence. His medical training had taught him that the body is a machine to be understood and repaired. But lying there in the soft darkness, he remembered what his grandmother used to say when he scraped his knees as a boy. El cuerpo sabe cómo sanarse. The body knows how to heal itself. The body knows how to heal itself. The body knows how to rest itself. The body knows how to love itself back to wholeness. This was not ignorance speaking, but the deepest kind of intelligence, the intelligence that beats your heart, that digests your food, that heals your wounds while you sleep, that grows your hair and renews your cells and dreams your dreams without any conscious effort from you. Marquez felt himself sinking into trust, the way he might sink into warm water, not by effort, but by releasing the effort to stay rigid, to maintain control, to keep his analytical mind in charge of processes that belonged to older, wiser parts of himself. His breath began to follow its own rhythm rather than the rhythm he thought it should follow. His muscles began to release in their own sequence rather than the progressive relaxation he had prescribed for patience. His mind began to quiet, not because he had emptied it of thoughts, but because he had filled it with wonder at the miracle of being alive, being breathed, being held by forces he could study but never fully comprehend. That night, sleep came not as the result of perfect conditions, but as the natural expression of trust. Not because he had figured out the formula, but because he had remembered the mystery. From that evening forward, Dr. Marquez became a different kind of healer. He still used his medical knowledge, but he held it more lightly, like a tool in service of something larger rather than the entire foundation of his understanding. When patients came to him with sleep troubles, he would still share the science, because knowledge can be helpful, but he would also share something more precious, his own journey from knowing about rest to trusting in rest. The body, he would tell them, his voice soft with reverence, is wiser than we know. Our job is not to control it, but to create the conditions where its wisdom can flow freely. Tonight, beautiful soul, you can walk this same path from analysis to amazement, from management to mystery, from trying to control your rest to trusting your body's ancient capacity for healing sleep. Your body has been resting since before you learned to think, since before you developed opinions about how sleep should come, since before you became afraid that it might not come at all. That original knowledge is still here, waiting beneath the layers of worry and effort and well-meaning attempts to solve what was never meant to be solved, but simply ... experienced. Let Dr. Marquez's courage to trust inspire your own journey from the mind that knows to the heart that trusts, from the intellect that analyzes to the wisdom that simply ... allows. There is a sacred art that your body has always known, but your mind has perhaps forgotten. It is the art of breathing with what is, rather than breathing against what you wish were different. Tonight, in this gentle darkness, you are invited to remember this ancient practice that transforms resistance into flow, struggle into grace. Breathe now, dear soul. Not the careful, controlled breath of effort, but the natural, trusting breath of someone who has finally come home. In your breath lives the entire universe. Each inhale carries the same air that has been breathed by saints and sages, by your grandmother and her grandmother before her. Each exhale releases not just carbon dioxide, but every story that no longer serves you, every worry that weighs too heavy, every should and must that has been pressing against your tender heart. Your breath is your most intimate teacher, your most faithful companion, your bridge between the world of doing and the world of being. And tonight, you will learn to breathe not just with air, but with life exactly as it arrives in this moment. Feel the rhythm of your breathing now. Notice how it flows without your management, rises and falls without your instruction, continues its sacred work whether you pay attention or not. This is your first lesson in breathing with what is. Your body already knows the rhythm of acceptance. There is a story from the mountains of Tibet about a monk who came to his teacher in great distress. "Master," he said, "I cannot meditate. Every time I sit in silence, painful memories arise. Angry thoughts appear. Sadness fills my chest. How can I push these away so I can find peace?" The wise teacher smiled and handed him a small bowl of muddy water. "Here," he said, "make this water clear." The monk began to stir the water vigorously, trying to separate the mud from the clarity. But the more he stirred, the muddier it became. "Stop stirring," the teacher said gently. "Simply hold the bowl and breathe with it." The monk sat still, breathing quietly, holding the bowl without trying to change it. Slowly, naturally, the mud began to settle. The water became clear, not through effort, but through stillness. "This," said the teacher, "is how you breathe with what is. You don't push away the mud of difficult thoughts and feelings. You breathe with them, you hold space for them, and you trust that clarity will emerge naturally when you stop stirring up more disturbance." Feel this wisdom settling into your own body now, beautiful one. Your thoughts, your worries, your restless mind, they are not enemies to defeat, but mud to breathe with. Trusting that stillness will naturally emerge when you stop fighting what is already here. Let your next breath be an experiment in acceptance. As you inhale, breathe in this moment exactly as it is. If there are thoughts, breathe with the thoughts. If there is tension, breathe with the tension. If there is sadness or anxiety or the simple tiredness of being human, breathe with all of it. You are not trying to change anything. You are simply learning to be present with what is, the way you might sit quietly beside a dear friend who is going through a difficult time. You don't need to fix them or cheer them up or make their pain go away. You simply need to be there, breathing the same air, sharing the same moment of being alive. This is the profound practice of breathing with rather than breathing against. Instead of using your breath as a tool to escape this moment, you use it as a bridge to arrive more fully in this moment. Whatever this moment contains, your body understands this naturally. When you cry, your breath adjusts to support the crying. When you laugh, your breath dances with the joy. When you are afraid, your breath quickens to meet the fear. Your body never judges these responses. It simply breathes with whatever is alive in you. Tonight, you can return to this original wisdom. You can breathe with your restless mind instead of against it. You can breathe with your tired body instead of demanding it feel different. You can breathe with your human need for rest instead of making it wrong that rest hasn't come easily. Place one hand on your chest, one on your belly. Feel how your breath moves your body from the inside, like a gentle wave flowing through you, around you, as you despair. This is not your breath. This is the breath of life itself, breathing you, moving through you, expressing itself as you. Each inhale is life saying yes to this moment. Each exhale is you saying yes back. This conversation between you and life has been happening since your first breath, and it will continue until your last. It is the most intimate dialogue you will ever have, and it happens without words, beyond thoughts, in the sacred silence of simply being. When difficult thoughts arise, and they will, because that is what minds do, don't try to breathe them away. Instead, breathe with them. Hello, worry about tomorrow. I see you there. You can stay, but I'm not going to feed you with my attention. I'm just going to breathe with you until you're ready to move on. When your body feels tense or uncomfortable, don't use your breath to force relaxation. Instead, breathe with the tension. Hello, tight shoulders. I feel you holding so much. You don't need to let go right now. I'm just going to breathe with you, and when you're ready to soften, I'll be here. This is revolutionary, dear soul. Instead of your breath being another way to try to control your experience, it becomes a way to love your experience exactly as it is. Instead of breathing being work, it becomes worship. Worship of this moment, this body, this beautifully imperfect human experience of being you. Feel your breath slowing now, not because you're making it slow, but because when you stop resisting what is, everything naturally finds its own perfect rhythm. Your body knows how to breathe for rest, how to breathe for healing, how to breathe for the deep peace that comes from accepting rather than changing. In this acceptance, something miraculous happens. The very things you were trying to breathe away, the thoughts, the tension, the restlessness, begin to soften on their own. Not because you defeated them, but because you loved them enough to stop fighting. This is the sacred art of breathing with what is. The recognition that peace is not the absence of disturbance, but the presence of love for whatever arises. Your breath becomes a prayer, a offering, a gentle lullaby you sing to every part of yourself that needs to be held. Breathe now with the fullness of this moment. Breathe with your beautiful, imperfect, completely human experience of being awake when you long to sleep, of being here when you wish you were elsewhere, of being you when sometimes being you feels like too much to bear. And in this breathing with rather than against, discover the profound rest that comes not from changing your circumstances, but from changing your relationship to your circumstances. This is where true peace lives, not in the perfection of conditions, but in the perfection of acceptance. In a quiet hospital room where afternoon light filtered through gauze curtains like liquid gold, there lay a woman named Alina. Her body bore the tender marks of healing surgery scars that told stories of survival, muscles that remembered impact, bones that were slowly knitting themselves back together with the patience of ancient trees, growing new rings. Elena's accident had taken many things from her: her morning runs through the park, her ability to lift her grandchildren without wincing, her innocent trust that her body would always be her faithful companion in exactly the way she expected. But it had given her something unexpected too. It had given her an intimate teacher in the art of breathing with pain. Feel your own body now, dear soul. Let it settle deeper into this sacred space where all healing begins. Notice any places that hold discomfort, tension, or the simple tiredness of being human. Tonight, Elena's story will show you a new way to meet these places, not as enemies to defeat, but as teachers to honor. For months after the accident, Alina had fought her pain like a warrior. She gritted her teeth through physical therapy. She pushed through exercises that made her body scream. She breathed against the discomfort, holding her breath when waves of hurt rolled through her healing tissues. But fighting pain, she discovered, was like fighting the ocean with her fists. The more she struggled, the more exhausted she became. The harder she resisted, the more the pain seemed to expand and intensify. Her sleep became another battlefield. Each night, she would lie in bed waiting for the pain to subside enough for rest to come. She would negotiate with her body. If you just stop hurting for a few hours, then I can sleep. But her body, wise in ways her mind was still learning, had different lessons to offer. One night, when the pain was particularly present and sleep felt like a distant shore she might never reach, Alina found herself remembering something her grandmother used to say: "Mia, when you cannot go around the mountain, you must learn to breathe with it." At the time, she had thought this was just one of her grandmother's poetic sayings. But lying there in the darkness, with nowhere to run from her body's experience, she began to understand what her grandmother had always known. Breathe with it, not against it, not in spite of it, with it. That night, instead of holding her breath when pain arose, Alina tried something revolutionary. She breathed toward the discomfort, like breathing toward a dear friend who was suffering. Instead of tensing against the sensation, she let her breath create space around it. "Hello, pain in my shoulder," she whispered into the darkness. "I see you there. You're part of my healing, aren't you? You're my body's way of asking for attention, for care, for the tenderness I've been too afraid to offer. Feel this shift in your own heart now. beautiful one. What would change if you spoke to your discomfort, physical or emotional, not as an enemy but as a messenger, carrying important information about what needs your love? Elena placed her hand gently on her shoulder, the way she might touch a beloved pet who was in distress. Instead of demanding the pain go away, she offered it presence. Instead of breathing to escape the sensation, she breathed to accompany it. Something extraordinary began to happen. The pain was still there, but her relationship to it transformed. When she stopped fighting it, it stopped fighting back. When she stopped making it wrong, it stopped consuming all her energy. When she started breathing with it instead of against it, space opened up around it. In that space, she found something she hadn't expected: rest. Not the absence of sensation, but the presence of peace within sensation. Not the elimination of discomfort, but the discovery that she could be uncomfortable and still be at ease in some deeper way. This was Elena's profound teaching. Healing doesn't always mean the return to how things were. Sometimes healing means learning to breathe with how things are. Finding wholeness not in perfect health, but in perfect acceptance of imperfect circumstances. Her sleep began to change. Instead of waiting for ideal conditions, she learned to rest within whatever conditions were present. If pain visited her in the night, she would greet it like an old friend who needed company rather than correction. "Ah, you're here again," she would say to the discomfort. "What are you trying to tell me tonight? What part of my healing needs attention?" And then she would breathe with whatever arose, creating space for all of her experience, rather than demanding that only the comfortable parts were welcome. Elena discovered that her breath could become a bridge between resistance and acceptance, between fighting and flowing, between the part of her that wanted everything to be different and the part that was learning to find beauty in what was. She would breathe as if her breath could carry love directly to the places that hurt. Each inhale became an offering of tenderness to her healing body. Each exhale became a release of the story that her discomfort meant something was wrong with her. Her physical therapist began to notice changes that went beyond the expected healing timeline. Elena's muscles relaxed more easily. Her range of motion improved not just through effort, but through a quality of inner softness that seemed to accelerate her body's natural repair processes. "What's different?" her therapist asked one day, watching Elena move with a grace that seemed to emerge from somewhere deeper than physical recovery. "I stopped fighting my body," Elena replied. "I started loving it instead. All of it, even the parts that hurt, especially the parts that hurt." This became Elena's gift to others walking similar paths. She would visit other patients in the rehabilitation center, not to give advice, but to share presence. She would sit with them and breathe, demonstrating through her own peaceful being that it was possible to be in pain and still be at peace. The breath, she would tell them, is how we love ourselves through anything. It doesn't take the hurt away, but it holds the hurt in something bigger than hurt. It holds everything in love. Tonight, dear soul, you can walk Elena's path of breathing with, rather than breathing against whatever arises in your experience. Perhaps it's physical discomfort. Perhaps it's emotional restlessness. Perhaps it's simply the vulnerable feeling of being a tender human in a world that sometimes feels too much to bear. Your breath can become your bridge to loving yourself through all of it. Not loving yourself only when you feel good, but loving yourself especially when you don't. not breathing to escape your experience, but breathing to embrace it with such tenderness that even difficulty becomes a doorway to deeper peace. Place your hands somewhere on your body that feels like it needs attention. Maybe your heart racing with the day's concerns. Maybe your shoulders carrying invisible weights. Maybe your belly holding the contractions of worry or fear. Breathe toward that place now, as if your breath could carry the same unconditional love a mother offers to her child who has fallen and skinned their knee. You don't try to make the hurt disappear, you simply hold it in love until it feels safe enough to transform in its own perfect timing. This is Elena's gift to you, the recognition that you don't need to wait until everything feels perfect to rest. You can rest in the midst of imperfection, breathe peace into the center of discomfort. Find wholeness not by fixing what's broken, but by loving what's present with the fierce tenderness of someone who has learned that everything deserves to be met with breath, with presence, with the radical acceptance that opens doorways to healing you never imagined possible. There is an ocean that exists beyond the shores of trying, beyond the coastline of effort, beyond the waves of wanting things to be different than they are. Tonight, you are invited to wade into these sacred waters, where the only way to move forward is to surrender completely to the current that has always been carrying you home. Close your eyes and feel yourself standing at the edge of this vast ocean. The sand beneath your feet is warm with the memory of all the steps that brought you here. The air carries the scent of salt and possibility. The horizon stretches endlessly, reminding you that some journeys have no destination because they are complete in every moment of traveling. This is the ocean of surrender, dear soul, and you have arrived here not as a swimmer who must fight the waves, but as a beloved child of the sea itself, finally ready to remember that you were born to float, not to struggle. Breathe now, and let each exhale carry you deeper into these healing waters. Feel your body beginning to understand what your mind has forgotten. That surrender is not giving up, but giving over. Not collapsing, but flowing. Not losing yourself, but finding yourself in something infinitely larger and more loving than your individual will. In the deepest part of this ocean live 3 ancient obstacles that have been keeping souls from rest since the beginning of time. Tonight, as you float in these sacred waters, you will meet each one with the gentle understanding of someone who has learned that even obstacles can become doorways. When met with love, the first obstacle, resistance. Feel it now, that familiar tightening in your chest when life offers you something you didn't ask for. The automatic no that rises when your body feels tired, but your mind insists on staying alert. The gentle war you wage against this moment, wishing it were different, believing it should be other than it is. Resistance moves through the ocean like a current that seems to be going somewhere important, but actually just circles endlessly, creating turbulence without progress. It whispers seductive stories. If you just try harder, sleep will come. If you can control your thoughts, then you'll find peace. If you resist feeling tired, maybe you'll feel more energetic. But here, in the ocean of surrender, you can feel the futility of swimming against the tide. You can sense how exhausting it is to keep your head above water by constantly fighting the very element that wants to hold you. What if, instead of resisting the waves of this moment, you let them carry you? What if your sleeplessness is not something to fight, but something to float with? trusting that the ocean knows where it's taking you even when you cannot see the shore. Breathe with this possibility. Let your exhale be a small act of letting go, a gentle release of the need to control the uncontrollable. Feel your body beginning to soften as you stop pushing against what is and start flowing with what wants to naturally unfold. The second obstacle, judgment. Deeper in the ocean swims a creature as old as human consciousness itself, the voice that makes everything wrong, including your own experience of struggle. Listen, can you hear it whispering? You should be able to sleep by now. Other people don't have this problem. You're not doing this right. There must be something wrong with you. This voice creates waves of shame that crash over your tender efforts to rest, making you feel like you're drowning in your own inadequacy rather than floating in the natural ebb and flow of human experience. But judgment, like resistance, loses its power when met with the vast spaciousness of the ocean. Here, every wave is welcomed, the gentle ones and the fierce ones, the ones that carry you toward shore and the ones that tumble you in their embrace. Your sleepless nights are not failures, beautiful one. They are simply waves in the ocean of your human experience. Your restless thoughts are not evidence of brokenness. They are proof of your aliveness, your caring, your beautifully complex inner world that sometimes needs extra time to settle into peace. Feel this truth dissolving the harsh edges of self-criticism. Let the salt water of compassion wash away every story that makes your struggle wrong. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply learning to float in waters that are sometimes calm and sometimes rough, trusting that the ocean itself, the vast field of consciousness that holds all experience, is always, always on your side. The third obstacle, distrust. In the deepest trenches of the ocean lives the most ancient fear of all, the belief that you are alone in your struggle, that the universe is indifferent to your suffering, that your body has forgotten how to rest and may never remember again. This distrust whispers, what if sleep never comes? What if you're broken beyond repair? What if trying to surrender just makes things worse? It creates an undercurrent of anxiety that keeps you swimming frantically even when you long to float peacefully. But here, in the heart of the ocean of surrender, you can feel something your fearful mind has forgotten. You are not swimming alone. You are held by something so vast, so reliable, so fundamentally loving that it requires no effort from you to maintain it. The same force that moves the tides, that pulls the moon across the sky, that causes flowers to bloom and seasons to turn, that beats your heart and breathes your breath. This force is not separate from you. You are an expression of it, a wave in its ocean, a note in its endless song of creation and rest and renewal. Feel this now. Let your body remember its place in the greater rhythm of existence. You are not an isolated individual trying to manufacture rest through will and effort. You are part of an ancient dance of sleeping and waking, of tension and release, of holding on and letting go that has been flowing since the first star was born and will continue until the last one dims. Your body knows this dance. Your nervous system remembers this rhythm. Your cells carry the memory of every ancestor who successfully found rest, who trusted the darkness, who surrendered to sleep and woke refreshed. This wisdom lives in you now, waiting to be remembered rather than learned. As you float deeper into the ocean of surrender, feel these three obstacles dissolving like salt in water. Resistance melts into flow. Judgment transforms into compassion. Distrust opens into faith. Not faith in any particular outcome, but faith in the process itself. Faith in your body's ancient wisdom. Faith in life's fundamental desire for your healing and rest. Here, in this sacred space beyond effort, you don't need to swim towards sleep. You simply need to stop swimming away from it. You don't need to achieve peace. You need to recognize the peace that has always been here, beneath the waves of worry, deeper than the currents of control. The ocean of surrender is not somewhere you go, it is what you are. You are not in the water, you are the water, taking the shape of this beautiful, temporary, utterly precious wave called your life, destined to return to the source from which you never actually left. Float now, beloved soul. Let the waters hold you completely. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be, exactly as you need to be, held by love too vast to comprehend and too intimate to doubt. In a small cottage, surrounded by jasmine vines that bloomed white as moonlight, there lived a woman named Amara, whose hands held the memory of 50 years of guiding bodies into poses of prayer, breath into rhythms of peace, hearts into chambers of quiet joy. Amara had been a yoga teacher when yoga meant something different than it does today. Before studios with mirrors and music, before poses became performances. In her time, yoga was simply the sacred art of yoking, joining breath to body, body to spirit, individual wave to infinite ocean. But time, that gentle teacher, had begun to write new lessons across her form. Her knees spoke different languages now. Her spine curved like a question mark, asking new questions about grace. Her energy flowed in rivers that followed older, wiser paths than the rushing streams of her younger years. At 73, Amara discovered that her body was offering her the most profound yoga lesson of all, the yoga of time itself. Close your eyes deeper now, dear soul, and let yourself settle into the wisdom that comes not from perfecting poses, but from perfecting presence with whatever pose life offers you in this moment. For months after her body began its natural aging process, Amara felt like a yoga teacher who had lost her credentials. She could no longer demonstrate the flowing sequences that had once moved through her like music made visible. Her balance, once steady as mountain pose, now swayed like grass in wind. Sleep, too, became a different practice. Where once she had sunk into rest like a stone into still water, now she found herself visiting sleep in smaller sips, waking more frequently, resting in shorter cycles that seemed to honor some rhythm her younger body had never needed to follow. At first, she fought this change with the same determination she had once brought to mastering difficult poses. She tried to force her 73-year-old body to sleep like her 30-year-old body had slept. She measured her rest against memories of 80 years' slumbers that came easy as breathing. But fighting time, Amara discovered, was like trying to do warrior pose against a hurricane. The more she resisted, the more unbalanced she became. One evening, as she sat in her garden watching the jasmine flowers open to the night, each bloom following its own perfect timing, some opening slowly, others quickly, all beautiful in their unique rhythm, she received what she would later call her greatest teaching. What if, she whispered to the night air. Aging is not the end of yoga, but the beginning of its deepest practice. Feel this question settling into your own heart now, beautiful one. What if the changes in your body, in your sleep, in your energy are not signs of failure, but invitations to a more intimate, more compassionate, more authentic relationship with yourself? That night, instead of trying to sleep like she used to, Amara practiced what she began to call the yoga of time. She honored her body's natural rhythm of waking and resting in shorter cycles. Instead of lying frustrated during periods of wakefulness, she treated them as opportunities for gentle meditation, soft breathwork, loving awareness of her faithful body that had carried her through decades of life. When sleep came for 20 minutes, she received it like a gift. When it departed and left her peacefully alert at 3 a.m., she welcomed that too, using the quiet hours for the kind of deep rest that doesn't require unconsciousness, the rest that comes from complete acceptance of what is. She discovered that her body was teaching her about the natural rhythm of older women, the sacred cycling between gentle alertness and gentle rest that perhaps honored some ancient feminine wisdom she had never needed to access in her younger years. "My body is not broken," she would tell her garden, speaking to the jasmine as if it were a dear friend. "My body is blooming into a different season, and every season has its own form of beauty, its own rhythm of rest and renewal. Breathe with this understanding now, precious soul. Your body, whatever age it carries, whatever changes it has weathered, is not broken. It is blooming into exactly the season it needs to be in, carrying exactly the wisdom you need for this moment of your journey." Amara began to teach what she called restorative aging, not the aggressive pursuit of staying young, but the graceful art of growing older with curiosity instead of resistance, wonder instead of fear, self-compassion instead of self-criticism. In warrior pose, she would tell her students, "We learn to be strong." In child's pose, we learn to surrender. But in the yoga of time, we learn the most advanced practice of all. We learn to love ourselves through every season of change. She discovered that her interrupted sleep patterns were not insomnia, but a different kind of natural rhythm, like the tides that ebb and flow throughout the night, like the moon that waxes and wanes in cycles. Her rest followed patterns that honored some deeper timing than the 8-hour prescription of younger bodies. During her gentle, wakeful periods, instead of anxiety about not sleeping, she practiced what she called horizontal meditation, lying peacefully, breathing softly, allowing her body to rest even when sleep was visiting elsewhere. Rest, she discovered, is not the same as sleep. Rest is what happens when you stop fighting what is and start flowing with what wants to naturally unfold. Her students, many of them women navigating their own changes of season, began to visit her not for vigorous yoga classes, but for something more precious: permission to age gracefully, to rest imperfectly, to honor their bodies' changing needs without shame or struggle. Amara would sit with them in her jasmine garden, sharing tea and the revolutionary practice of accepting their bodies exactly as they were in each moment. She taught them that every wrinkle was a map of wisdom earned, every change in energy an invitation to discover new forms of beauty, every shift in sleep patterns a call to explore deeper dimensions of rest. "Your body," she would say, her eyes twinkling with the light of someone who had made peace with time itself, is not a machine that should perform the same way forever. It is a river that flows through different landscapes in different seasons, and every landscape has its own gifts to offer. Tonight, dear soul, you can receive Amara's gift of the yoga of time. You can honor your body's current season without demanding it be any different. You can rest in the rhythm that wants to naturally express itself through you, trusting that this rhythm carries its own form of perfection. Whether you are 25 or 75, your body knows something about rest that your mind is still learning. Your job is not to force your body into some ideal pattern, but to listen so deeply to its needs that you become fluent in the language of your own natural cycles. Feel yourself settling into this acceptance now. Let your breath become a gentle yoga practice, each inhale honoring where you are, each exhale releasing where you think you should be. You are not behind in some race against time. You are exactly on time for the season your soul needs to experience, the lessons your heart needs to learn, the rest your body needs to receive. This is Amara's greatest teaching, that true yoga is not about perfecting poses, but about perfecting peace with the pose life has offered you in this moment. And in that peace, all rest becomes possible. In the sanctuary of your heart, there exists a prayer so simple, so gentle, that it needs no temple to be sacred, no ceremony to be holy. Tonight, you will discover this whispered mantra that has the power to transform restless nights into doorways of peace, sleepless hours into spaces of profound grace. Breathe now, dear soul. Let your breath become the rhythm that carries this sacred phrase into the deepest chambers of your being, where all healing begins and all rest is born. There are mantras that command and mantras that demand, but the mantra you are about to receive is different. It is not a tool for conquest, but a lullaby for surrender. Not a formula for achievement, but a gentle song that reminds you of what you have always known, but perhaps forgotten in the noise of trying too hard. Listen now with the ears of your heart. Let these words settle into your consciousness like seeds of moonlight falling onto fertile darkness. I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest. Feel these words, beautiful one, not as something to memorize or repeat mechanically, but as a truth to breathe into, to sink into, to let dissolve on your tongue like sacred honey. I don't need to sleep. What happens in your body when you hear this? Can you feel the subtle release, the gentle exhale of relief? For so long, you have carried the burden of needing to make sleep happen, of being responsible for orchestrating the complex symphony of unconsciousness. But tonight, you are free from that impossible task. Sleep is not your job, dear heart. Sleep is life's gift to you, offered freely when the conditions of trust and surrender are present. Your job is not to create sleep, but to create the space where sleep feels welcome to visit. I just need to allow myself to rest. This is the revolution whispered in the quietest voice. Not the aggressive pursuit of unconsciousness, but the gentle permission to simply be here, be tired, be human, be held by this moment exactly as it is. Rest is not sleep's younger sibling, waiting for its more important relative to arrive. Rest is the wise elder, the one who knows that peace can exist in wakefulness, that restoration can happen in stillness, that healing can occur whenever love meets whatever is present. Let this mantra become your companion now, not something you say to make something else happen, but something you whisper to remind yourself of what is already true. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to perfect rest. You just need to allow rest. Breathe the mantra now, as if each word were a gentle wave carrying you deeper into trust. I don't need to sleep, ... Feel the release of pressure, the laying down of the heavy burden of expectation. I just need to allow myself ... Notice the tenderness in these words, the permission they offer, the grace they extend ... to rest. Let this final word be like a soft landing, a gentle arrival in the present moment where rest has always been waiting. There is a way to speak this mantra that transforms it from mere words into a living practice. Whisper it not with your voice, but with your entire being. Let your shoulders say it by softening. Let your jaw speak it by unclenching. Let your belly whisper it by releasing the held breath of trying too hard. I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest. Some nights, this mantra will carry you gently into the arms of sleep. Other nights, it will simply hold you in the arms of peace while you remain softly awake. Both are gifts. Both are rest. Both are enough. Feel your body responding to this permission now. Notice how different it feels to allow rather than to achieve, to rest rather than to sleep, to be present with what is rather than demanding what should be. This mantra is not magic in the way fairy tales are magic. It will not transform your circumstances with supernatural force, but it is magic in the way love is magic. It transforms your relationship to your circumstances, and in that transformation, everything changes. When worry visits in the middle of the night, you can whisper, I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest with this worry. When your body feels uncomfortable, you can offer, I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest with this discomfort. When thoughts race through your mind like wild horses, you can breathe. I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest with these thoughts. The mantra becomes a bridge between resistance and acceptance, between the part of you that fights what is and the part that welcomes what is with open arms. Practice speaking it now, not as a technique but as a prayer, not as a strategy but as a return to sanity in a world that has forgotten the sacred art of simply being. I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest. Let it become the rhythm of your heartbeat, the cadence of your breath, the gentle tide that carries you away from the shore of effort and into the ocean of grace. This mantra carries within it all the wisdom of every story you have heard tonight. Thitchmin Hon's discovery that sleep cannot be conquered, only allowed. Sarah's revolutionary self-compassion, Marquez's trust in his body's ancient wisdom, Elena's breathing with rather than against, the three sacred principles dissolved in the ocean of surrender, Amara's yoga of time. All of these teachings live in this simple phrase: I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest. Tonight, let this mantra be your faithful companion, not a tool to use, but a truth to inhabit. Not words to repeat, but a reality to rest into. You are safe here, beautiful soul. You are held here. You are loved here, exactly as you are, sleepy or awake, peaceful or restless, perfect in your beautiful imperfection. I don't need to sleep. I just need to allow myself to rest. And in this allowing, all things become possible. There is a place that exists between heartbeats, a sacred pause that lives in the space where inhale becomes exhale. A moment so present, so alive, so utterly here that it contains within itself all the rest you have ever sought and all the peace you will ever need. Tonight, you are invited to move into this place, not as a visitor passing through, but as someone finally coming home. Breathe now, dear soul, and feel yourself arriving, not somewhere else, but here. Not in some future moment when conditions are perfect, but in this moment, where perfection reveals itself as the gentle acceptance of what is. For too long, you have been a refugee from the present moment, racing toward tomorrow's promises, fleeing yesterday's regrets, living everywhere except the one place where life actually happens. This breath, this heartbeat, this tender now that holds you like a mother's arms. But tonight, the war with time can end. Tonight, you can lay down the exhausting burden of trying to be somewhere other than where you are, someone other than who you are, in some moment other than this moment that is offering itself to you like a flower opening in darkness. Feel your body settling deeper into this recognition. You are not late for your life. You are not behind in some cosmic schedule. You are not missing out on rest because you haven't achieved the perfect state of sleepiness. You are exactly where presence lives, in this breath, in this body, in this beautifully imperfect human experience of being awake when you wish you were asleep. This is where the deepest teaching begins, beautiful one, not in the conquering of the present moment, but in the inhabiting of it so completely that fighting and surrendering become the same gesture. Effort and ease become one movement. Sleeping and waking become different notes in the same lullaby. There was once a student who came to a great teacher, exhausted from years of seeking peace. "Master," she whispered, "I have meditated for countless hours, read endless books, tried every practice. When will I finally find the peace I seek?" The teacher smiled and pointed to a bird outside the window. "Watch," he said quietly. "See how the bird sits on the branch. It is not trying to be peaceful. It is not working to find balance. It is simply ... here. Present with the branch, present with the sky, present with its own birdness in this moment. This is enlightenment. Feel this truth settling into your bones now, dear heart. You don't need to become peaceful. You need to notice the peace that arises naturally when you stop trying to be anywhere other than here. Your thoughts may still be moving, like clouds across the sky of your consciousness. But you, the one who notices the thoughts, the awareness that observes the movement of mind, you are as still and spacious as the sky itself. You are not the weather patterns of your mental activity. You are the vast space in which all weather comes and goes. Rest your attention here now, in this spaciousness, not trying to empty your mind of thoughts, but recognizing the emptiness that was never full, the stillness that was never disturbed, the peace that exists before, during, and after every storm of mental activity. This is what it means to inhabit the present moment, not to grasp it or hold on to it or make it into something special, but to recognize that you have never actually left it. You have only been lost in stories about past and future, in dreams of being somewhere else, in the beautiful but exhausting theater of the mind. Your body has always known this secret. It has never lived anywhere but now. Your heart beats now. Your breath flows now. Your cells regenerate now. Your nervous system relaxes now when it feels safe. Now when it feels held. Now when it recognizes that this moment is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. Let your breathing be your teacher in the art of presence. Each inhale is a fresh arrival in now. Each exhale is a gentle letting go of everything that is not now. You don't need to go anywhere to find rest. Rest finds you when you stop running from where you are. Feel this shift happening in your body now. The subtle softening that occurs when you stop pushing against this moment and start melting into it. The gentle release that happens when you recognize that you are not trapped in now. You are held by now, supported by now, loved by now, in ways your mind cannot comprehend, but your body knows intimately. This moment is not empty time waiting to be filled with sleep. This moment is full time, complete time, sacred time that contains within itself all the nourishment your soul needs. Whether sleep comes or doesn't come, whether thoughts are active or quiet, whether your body feels comfortable or uncomfortable, all of this is held within the vast embrace of now. You are not trying to get somewhere else anymore. You are not waiting for conditions to improve. You are not hoping for a better moment to arrive. You are arriving here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this tender recognition that home was never a place you needed to travel to, but a truth you needed to remember. The present moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere better. It is the destination. It is where rest lives, where peace dwells, where love makes its home. And you, you are not separate from this moment. You are not in it like a person in a room. You are it, like a wave is the ocean, like a ray is the sun, like a note is the music. Feel yourself dissolving into this understanding now, not disappearing, but expanding, not losing yourself, but finding yourself in something so intimate and so vast that the very idea of separation becomes as impossible as dividing water from wetness. This is inhabiting the present moment, not as a practice to perfect, but as a reality to recognize, not as a state to achieve, but as the truth that has always been true, waiting patiently for you to stop looking everywhere else and finally, come home. Here you are, beautiful soul. Here you have always been. Here you will always be. And here, in this eternal now that is both temporary and timeless, all rest becomes possible because all resistance becomes unnecessary. In the vast cathedral of night, where darkness spreads like velvet prayer shawls across the world, there burn countless points of light, stars that have been shining since before your grandmother's grandmother drew her first breath, stars that will continue their luminous dance long after your great-granddaughter's children have returned to stardust. Tonight, these ancient teachers offer you their most precious secret, the art of being without effort, the grace of shining without struggle. Close your eyes deeper now, beautiful soul, and let yourself drift upward, beyond the ceiling of trying, beyond the atmosphere of should and must, into the infinite space where effort dissolves into essence, where doing transforms into being. Can you see them there? Millions upon millions of lights scattered across the cosmic darkness like sacred seeds of possibility. Each star burning bright, not because it works hard to shine, but because shining is simply what stars do. They don't strain to be luminous. They don't struggle to be beautiful. They don't effort their way into radiance. They simply ... are. And in their being, they light the way for travelers lost in darkness. In their effortless existence, they offer navigation to ships crossing unknown waters. Without trying to help, they help. Without intending to guide, they guide. Without working to heal, they heal with their presence alone. This is the profound teaching written in light across the night sky. Dear heart, you too are made of star stuff. You too carry within yourselves the memory of cosmic fire. And you too can learn to rest like the stars, not by doing anything, but by remembering what you are. Feel this truth settling into your body now, like warm honey flowing through your veins. You are not separate from the stars. You are not different from their light. The same consciousness that illuminates the galaxy illuminates the space behind your closed eyelids. The same peace that holds planets in their orbits holds you in this moment of tender surrender. Your breath rises and falls with the same natural rhythm that expands and contracts the universe itself. Your heartbeat drums the same ancient song that pulses through pulsars and quasars across infinite space. You are not small and struggling in a vast, indifferent cosmos. You are the cosmos, dreaming itself into the beautiful temporary form you call your life. The stars don't worry about whether they're shining brightly enough. They don't compare their light to other stars. They don't lie awake at night fretting about whether they'll have enough energy to rise tomorrow. They trust the infinite source that flows through them, knowing that their job is not to create light, but to allow light to express itself through their being. What would happen, precious one, if you rested like the stars? If you stopped trying to manufacture peace and started trusting the peace that wants to flow through you naturally? If you ceased efforting your way towards sleep and began allowing sleep to find you in your stillness? Breathe now as if you are breathing with the rhythm of the entire universe. Each inhale draws in starlight, cosmic silence, the accumulated rest of all beings who have ever found peace. Each exhale releases into space every worry, every tension, every story about being broken or failing or not enough. You are enough, beautiful star child. You have always been enough, not because of what you do or achieve or perfect, but because of what you are, a unique expression of the one consciousness that dreams all dreams, loves all love, rests all rest. Feel your body beginning to remember this stellar wisdom. Your muscles softening not because you're making them relax, but because tension was never natural to your essential nature. Your mind quieting not because you're controlling your thoughts, but because beneath all mental activity lies the same vast silence that exists between stars. In that silence, all healing happens. In that vastness, all rest is born. In that space of effortless being, your body recalls its deepest knowing, how to regenerate, how to restore, how to return to the original peace from which you came and to which you will return. The leaves on trees don't effort their way into falling when autumn comes. They simply release their grip and trust the wind to carry them home to earth. The moon doesn't struggle to wax and wane. It follows the ancient rhythm written in its cosmic DNA, pulling tides and dreams with the same effortless grace. Tonight, you can rest like nature rests, not by working at rest, but by stopping the work that prevents rest from naturally arising, not by creating peace, but by ceasing the activities that disturb the peace that is always already here. Let your breathing become like starlight now, steady, radiant, requiring no effort to maintain its luminous rhythm. Let your heartbeat become like moonbeams, reliable, gentle, following laws older than worry, deeper than fear. You are held, dear one, by the same gravitational love that keeps planets dancing in their orbits. You are supported by the same mysterious force that maintains the delicate balance, allowing stars to burn for billions of years without burning out. This force doesn't require your management. This love doesn't need your effort to continue loving you. This peace doesn't demand your work to remain peaceful, like starlight that travels across impossible distances to reach your eyes. The love that holds you transcends time and space and the small stories of not being able to sleep. Rest now in this knowing. Not the rest that comes from doing rest correctly, but the rest that emerges when you stop doing anything at all and start being everything you already are. Effortless as starshine, natural as gravity, inevitable as dawn. You are the night sky, vast enough to hold all weather. You are the stars, bright enough to illuminate any darkness. You are the space between worlds, silent enough to hear the whispered secrets of peace. Shine now without trying, beautiful star. Rest now without effort, precious light. Be now without becoming, eternal soul temporarily wearing the costume of this tender human form. The universe is resting through you. Let it rest as you. The night has been waiting for you, dear soul. Not demanding, not expecting, not requiring anything from you except the simple gift of your presence. She spreads her dark velvet arms wide as cathedral doors, whispering the most tender invitation your heart has ever heard. Come home, beloved child. Come rest in my embrace. Feel her now, this ancient mother of all rest. She has held billions of souls through their darkest hours, their most restless nights, their seasons of worry and wonder. She has witnessed every prayer whispered into darkness, every tear shed in solitude, every moment when someone just like you lay awake wondering if peace would ever come. And always, always, she has answered with the same infinite patience, the same boundless love. I am here. I have always been here. You are safe in my arms. Tonight, let yourself be held by this darkness that is not empty but full, full of possibility, full of restoration, full of the deepest love your soul has ever known. The love that asks nothing in return except your willingness to receive it. Breathe now into this embrace. Feel how the night wraps around you like your grandmother's quilt, soft with the memory of countless peaceful sleeps, warm with the accumulated rest of all who have found refuge in her gentle arms. Night does not judge you for being awake when others sleep. She does not measure your worth by how quickly you surrender to dreams. She simply holds space, infinite, patient space, for whatever you need to experience, to feel, to release, to remember. In her darkness, there is no performance required, no mask to wear, no role to play. You can be utterly, completely yourself, tired, worried, hopeful, peaceful, all of it welcome in her unconditional acceptance. Listen. Can you hear her lullaby? It is sung not with words, but with the whisper of wind through leaves, the distant hum of the world settling into rest, the gentle symphony of a universe breathing itself toward dawn. This is the song she has been singing since time began, and tonight she sings it especially for you. Your restlessness is not a problem to her. Your active mind is not a disturbance in her peace. She has seen it all before. The racing thoughts, the worried hearts, the bodies that forgot how to be still. And she loves it all, holds it all, transforms it all with the alchemy of acceptance. Feel yourself sinking deeper into her embrace now. Not falling, but being caught. Not descending into emptiness, but ascending into fullness. The fullness of being completely received, utterly welcomed, perfectly loved, exactly as you are in this moment. Night knows secrets that day has forgotten. She knows that healing happens in darkness, that seeds germinate in the hidden soil, that the most profound transformations occur when the busy world grows quiet and the soul can finally hear its own whispered wisdom. In her arms, you remember what you have always known but sometimes forget. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Even in your most isolated moments, you are held by something vast and loving and eternal. The same presence that holds stars in their courses and planets in their dance. This night is not separate from you, dear heart. You are not in the darkness. You are made of the same mystery, the same gentle power, the same infinite capacity for peace. The night sky lives within you, vast and spacious enough to hold every thought, every feeling, every moment of restlessness without being disturbed. Your inner night is as patient as the outer night. Your soul's darkness is as healing as earth's darkness. The quiet spaces within you are as sacred as the silence that exists between stars. Let yourself melt into this recognition now. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions to rest. You don't need to earn the right to be held. You don't need to prove your worthiness for peace. Night offers all of this freely, the way rain offers itself to thirsty earth, the way moonlight offers itself to sleeping flowers. Feel your breath becoming the rhythm of this offering. Each inhale receives night's gift of boundless space. Each exhale gives back your gratitude, your trust, your willingness to be loved so completely that nothing else matters except this moment of being cradled in cosmic tenderness. The night asks nothing of you except your presence. She demands no improvement, no perfection, no transformation. She loves you awake. She loves you asleep. She loves you worried. She loves you peaceful. She loves you exactly as you are, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this sacred now. This is her gentle embrace, not the grip that holds tight, but the space that holds everything. Not the embrace that possesses, but the embrace that frees. In her arms, you can finally stop trying to be anywhere else, anyone else, any way else than exactly how you are. Welcome home, precious soul. Welcome to the embrace that has been waiting for you since before you were born and will continue holding you long after you return to the stars from which you came. Night loves you, and in her love, all rest becomes possible. In the deepest chambers of your being, where thoughts fade into whispers and whispers dissolve into something more profound than sound, there exists a silence so alive, so full, so present that it contains within itself every song that has ever been sung and every peace that has ever been felt. Tonight, you are invited to listen to this silence, not as absence, but as presence, not as emptiness, but as the fullness from which all music is born. Close your eyes deeper now, beautiful soul, and let yourself sink beneath the surface of sound into the ocean of silence that has always been your truest home. At first, you might notice the sounds that seem to disturb the quiet, the distant hum of the world continuing its ancient dance, the gentle rhythm of your own heartbeats, the soft whisper of breath moving through your body like prayer made audible. But listen deeper, dear heart. Beneath these sounds, between these sounds, holding these sounds like a mother holds her sleeping children, there is something else. A presence so subtle and so vast that it can only be heard with the ears of the soul. This is not the silence of empty rooms or forgotten spaces. This is the silence of pregnant possibility, of infinite potential resting in perfect stillness before expressing itself as your next breath, your next heartbeat, your next moment of graceful existence. Feel yourself being drawn into this living silence now, like a drop of water returning to the ocean from which it was never truly separate. You are not losing yourself in this quietude. You are finding yourself in the source from which all selves arise. In this silence, every question you have ever asked finds its answer. Not in words, but in the wordless knowing that transcends understanding. Every worry you have carried discovers its resolution, not in solutions, but in the recognition that you are held by something so vast and loving that worry becomes impossible. Your restless mind, which has been chattering like birds at dawn, begins to settle into this deeper rhythm, not the silence of suppression, where thoughts are pushed away, but the silence of integration, where thoughts are welcomed and then naturally dissolve back into the spaciousness from which they emerged. Listen to the quality of this silence now. It is not empty waiting, but full presence. It is not the absence of life, but the essence of life itself, resting in its own perfect completion before manifesting as dreams, as healing, as the renewal that happens in the secret chambers of sleep. This silence speaks without words. It teaches without lessons. It heals without intervention. It is the original medicine, the first blessing, the space of grace that exists before effort and after surrender, holding both in its infinite embrace. Your body recognizes this silence, dear one. It remembers this quietude from the time before birth, when you floated in the cosmic womb of pure potential, breathing liquid light, cradled by the heartbeat of existence itself. That memory lives in your cells, in your bones, in the deepest places where rest originates. Feel your nervous system responding to this recognition now. The ancient part of you that has been on guard, scanning for danger, maintaining vigilance, begins to relax into the knowing that in this silence, all is well. All has always been well. All will always be well. This silence is not something you create or achieve or perfect. It is something you return to, like a river returning to the sea, like a breath returning to stillness, like a wave returning to the ocean that never stopped being its true nature. In this silence, your heartbeat becomes a gentle drum in a vast cathedral. Your breathing becomes the whisper of angels tending to your restoration. Every sensation in your body becomes a note in a symphony of healing that plays without effort, without intention, without anything but the pure expression of life loving itself back to wholeness. The silence is listening to you now, beautiful soul, listening to your deepest needs without you having to speak them, responding to your soul's prayer for rest without you having to ask, offering you exactly what you need in this moment, whether that is sleep or peace or simply the profound rest that comes from being completely received by love. You don't need to understand this silence. You don't need to analyze it or figure out how to use it or worry about whether you're experiencing it correctly. You simply need to let it experience you, the way moonlight experiences the landscape it illuminates, the way water experiences the riverbed it caresses, the way love experiences the heart it fills. This is the sound of silence, not the absence of sound, but the presence of the source from which all sound emerges and to which all sound returns. It is the background against which your life plays its beautiful, temporary song. It is the stage on which all experience dances. It is the canvas on which all moments paint themselves into existence and then gracefully fade back into potential. Rest here, now, in this living silence that breathes you, dreams you, loves you into being moment by moment by moment. Let it hold every part of you that needs holding, heal every part that needs healing, restore every part that needs restoration. You are home, precious one. You have always been home. And this silence, this beautiful, full, alive silence, is the sound of home welcoming you back to yourself. Here, in this sacred stillness where your journey finds its gentle completion, there is nothing left to seek, nothing left to achieve, nothing left to become. You have arrived at the truth that was always true, the peace that was never missing, the rest that has been waiting patiently within you since your very first breath. You are already at peace, beautiful soul. Not the peace that comes after struggle ends, but the peace that exists during struggle, beneath struggle, holding struggle, with infinite tenderness. Not the peace you earn through perfect practice, but the peace you are, have always been, will always be, regardless of whether your mind is quiet or active, whether your body sleeps or wakes. Feel this truth settling into the deepest places of your being now, like warm honey finding its way into every hidden corner of your heart. You don't need to wait for tomorrow to be at peace. You don't need different circumstances, a quieter mind, a more cooperative body. Peace is not a destination you travel toward. It is the ground you have always been standing on. This moment, this breath, ... This gentle recognition, ... This is enough. You are enough. The stories of struggle, the nights of restlessness, the worried thoughts that visit like old friends who have forgotten how to leave. All of this has been held within something infinitely larger, infinitely more patient, infinitely more loving than any difficulty you have ever faced. Your tiredness is held in peace. Your worries are cradled in peace. Your humanness, with all its beautiful imperfections, rests eternally in the arms of peace. That asks nothing of you except your willingness to stop running from your own heart. Breathe now as if you are breathing peace itself, not breathing to create peace, but breathing as peace, from peace into peace. Each inhale is peace recognizing itself. Each exhale is peace returning home to peace. Feel your body softening into this recognition. Your muscles releasing not because you are making them relax, but because they are remembering their natural state of restful aliveness. Your heartbeat steadying not because you are controlling it, but because it is settling into the rhythm it has always wanted to follow, the ancient drumbeat of contentment that pulses at the center of existence. The night wraps around you now like a prayer shawl woven from starlight and silence. Every breath you take is blessed. Every heartbeat is sacred. Every moment of consciousness, whether sleeping or waking, is perfect exactly as it is. You have learned the secret that Thitchmin discovered in his moonlit garden, that Sarah found in her radical self-compassion, that Marquez uncovered when he trusted his body's ancient wisdom, that Alina breathed into being through acceptance of what is, that Amara embodied in her yoga of time. The secret is this: there was never anything to fix. There was never anything wrong with you. There was only love waiting to be remembered, peace waiting to be recognized, rest waiting to be allowed. Your journey tonight has been a returning, not to somewhere you have never been, but to somewhere you have never left. Home to the truth of what you are beneath all the stories, beyond all the seeking, deeper than all the worry. You are peace itself, wearing the beautiful costume of this temporary human form. You are rest itself, temporarily dreaming the dream of being someone who needs to learn how to rest. You are love itself, having forgotten for a little while that you are already everything you have been searching for. The silence holds you now in its infinite embrace. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of fullness, so complete that it needs no words, no explanations, no improvements. In this silence, your soul sighs with recognition. Yes, this, always this. Let yourself rest now in this knowing. Not the rest that comes from exhaustion, but the rest that comes from completion. Not the sleep that escapes from waking, but the peace that includes both sleeping and waking in its boundless acceptance. You are held, precious one. You have always been held, by forces more gentle than moonlight, more reliable than sunrise, more loving than any human heart could imagine. You rest in the arms of existence itself, which knows you more intimately than you know yourself, and loves you more completely than you have ever dared to love yourself. This is where your journey ends and begins. This is where seeking stops and finding never stops. This is where you discover that peace was never lost, rest was never missing, and you are already, always, eternally at peace. Sleep now, if sleep comes. Rest here, if rest is what arises. Be awake, if awakeness is your gift. All of it is perfect. All of it is peace. All of it is you being exactly what you need to be, exactly when you need to be it. The night sky within you is vast enough to hold everything. The silence within you is deep enough to heal anything. The love within you is strong enough to transform everything. You are already at peace. You have always been at peace. You will always be at peace. Rest now, beautiful soul. Rest in the truth of what you are.